and welcome back to my channel. So today we are starting a new chapter of Icse class 9 biology, and the name of the chapter is the flower. So what we are going to cover today, we will be studying about structure of a bisexual flower. Then we will study about complete and incomplete flower. Complete and incomplete flower. Then again we will study also about sexuality in flowers. Okay, we may consider ourselves as flowers only. Like flowers have different smells, they have their own color, different kinds of shapes. Similarly, we also human beings have our own special characteristics. So each flower is special. Similarly, we are also special. So we should never compare ourselves with others. Like there are varieties of flowers found with their own special characteristics. Similarly, we are all different people, so we should never judge and compare ourselves with others. So with this, let's begin with our first topic, which is structure of a bisexual flower. Let's first understand what is actually a flower. So a flower is a specialized shoot in which leaves are modified into floral like structures. Okay, let's first understand this. See, this is the normal stem, okay, and this is a normal branch which is coming out of this stem, and we have leaves attached on this stem also and on this branch also. So this is the normal stem, this is the normal branch and the normal leaf. Now in case of flower, we are studying that it is a specialized shoot. So if we are drawing a branch for flower, okay, and here is our flower located. So in this specialized shoot means the branch or the stem that is giving rise to a flower, okay, that is meant for reproduction. That is why it is known as a specialized shoot. So in case of flower, suppose this branch or this is a kind of a shoot, okay, it is called here specialized because this shoot is giving rise to a flower, and that flower is meant for reproduction. That is why we are calling it as a specialized shoot, okay, in which leaves are modified into floral like structures. In this, whatever leaves are there, they form floral structures like sepals, petals, female reproductive part, male reproductive part. So here the leaves, here there are normal leaves, but in case of this flower, the leaves are modified into sepals, petals and all these such structures. So I hope this definition of flower is clear. Now let's draw the diagram of flower and understand it very simply. So this is stalk that I am drawing. This stalk is also known as pedicel. Okay, it is a tiny stem that supports the flower. Okay, it is responsible for supporting the flower. Okay, and if this stalk is absent in any flower, that flower is known as what? Sessile flower. Suppose this is the stem, this is the branch, Okay, and so this stalk here is the flower. This is the stalk which is known as pedicel, which is supporting the flower. Okay, now if this is the branch and here the flower is attached directly, there is no such stalk present to support the flower. In this case, the flower will be known as sessile flower. Okay, now let's move to the next structure. So this is stalk and pedicel. Now it gets swollen up like this. Okay, this swollen like structure is known as thalamus or receptacle. It is known as thalamus or receptacle. Okay, this stalk gets swollen into a cup like structure. Okay, you may see it is looking like a cup shape. Now, this thalamus is responsible for giving rise to all the parts of the flower. From here only we will see the petals will be arising, the male reproductive part, the female reproductive, all the parts will be arising. So it acts as a base to support all such structures. Okay, now let's draw the next part. This I am drawing is what? This is sepal. Okay, this sepal, they are leaf like structures, and these basically they protect the flower when they are in a bud stage, when the flower is very young. Okay, when it is forming. Okay, so this sepals, their role is to protect that flower when they are very young. Suppose these are the two sepals and inside we have our flower bud, so these sepals will protect the whole flower. Okay, inside. Now, let's draw the other structures. Here I have drawn the female reproductive part. So this is stigma. Okay, this stigma, it receives the pollen grains. We will study about all those things later on. This is style, and this swollen part is called as ovary. Okay, and inside ovary we have ovules. Okay, inside we have this is ovary, and inside we have ovules. These ovules, they contain egg inside. Okay, so all these three parts, stigma, style, ovary, we will study about these parts in detail. They are together known as pistil. Stigma, style, ovary. You may include ovules in this also. So these are the parts of the female reproductive parts. That's why they are known as pistil. Okay, now let's draw the male reproductive part. So male reproductive part consists of two structures, which is anther. Anther I am drawing. This is anther and this is filament. So this is anther and this is filament. Anther is responsible for the formation of pollen grains. So together they are known as stamen. Okay, so this is the male reproductive part, this is the female reproductive part. Let's draw one more male reproductive part. Again, this is filament and this is anther, which is bilobed. You may see two lobes present. Now, we haven't drawn petals, so let's draw petals. So these are the petals. Okay, these petals are of different colors in different flowers, and they are generally responsible to attract the pollinators, like insects, for fertilization only. Okay, like we dress ourselves in different kinds of clothes just to look attractive. Similarly, flowers have petals of different kinds just to look attractive for the pollinators. okay, to reach them. So this was all about the structure of a bisexual flower. Why we are calling them at bisexual flower? Because here in this flower, this is a hibiscus flower, okay, and in this hibiscus flower we can see that both male as well as female reproductive parts are present in the same flower. So if both male and reproductive parts are present in the same flower, they are known as bisexual flowers, okay. uh, in humans, females are different and males are different, so they are unisexual, okay. We also have flowers in which only the female part is present, and in another flower only the male part is present, so they are known as unisexual flowers. But here in this case, both male and female flowers, both male and female parts are present in the same flower. That's why they are known as bisexual flowers, okay. Now let's move to our next topic. Let's study the four whorls of a flower. The word whorls means circular rounded form, okay. So flower consists of four whorls, means four rounded forms. So the first word, it includes the green sepals. So it includes green sepals, okay, which are collectively known as calyx. Means this group of sepals are collectively called as calyx. So let's write it down. So they are collectively called as calyx. Okay, remember this name, sepals and calyx. Now the second whorl, it includes the brightly colored petals. Include brightly colored petals. Now again, these petals are collectively, means their group, they are collectively called as corolla. So I'm not writing collectively, okay, just note it down. They are collectively called as corolla. Now the third whorl, it consists of the male reproductive part. The symbol for male reproductive part is like this. This is the symbol just to represent that it is the male part. So third whorl includes the male reproductive part, which are known as stamens, and the stamens are collectively known as androecium. So we know that this stamens, it includes two parts, which is filament and anther. This filament is thread-like, while this anther is bilobed. We saw that two lobes were present. This is bilobed. It was like this. This was the filament, thin thread-like, and this was the bilobed anther. Collectively, they were known as androecium, and this whole structure is the stamens. So stamens collectively known as androecium, consisting of filament and anther. Now the fourth whorl, it includes the female reproductive part, and this is the symbol for the female reproductive part. So the female reproductive part is known as pistil or carpel, and they are collectively known as gynoecium. So they are known as gynoecium. Collectively they are known as gynoecium. Now this pistil or carpel, it consists of three parts. The parts were stigma, style and ovary. The stigma was the uppermost part, the style was the middle part, and the ovary was the basal part. It was like this. This was stigma, this was style, and this was ovary. Okay, upper part, middle part, and lowermost part. Collectively, this pistil or carpel is known as gynoecium. Okay, So this was all about the walls of a flower. Now let's study about complete and incomplete flower. Let's classify flowers as complete and incomplete flowers, and flowers which includes the essential parts and the flowers which includes the non-essential parts. So let's first study about complete and incomplete flower. So complete flower are also known as perfect flowers. While incomplete flowers are known as imperfect flowers. Let's see why. These complete flowers are known as perfect flowers because they contain all the floral structures of a flower. Means all the sets of floral structures are present. All the four walls are present, be it sepals, petals, stamens or carpel. So they contain all the floral structure of a flower. Okay, be it sepals, petal, stamen or carpel. Now imperfect flowers or incomplete flowers are those in which one or more than one floral structures are absent. So here one or more floral structures are absent. Suppose a flower is not having sepals, or another flower is not having petal, or if a flower is not having a stamen, or the carpel is absent. So those flowers will be known as imperfect or incomplete flowers. Now let's study about essential parts and non-essential flowers. So a flower which has the parts which are responsible for reproduction are known as essential parts. So essential parts are those that are mainly responsible for reproduction. So contain parts responsible for reproduction. And what are those parts? Those parts are the stamens, which is the male reproductive part, and the carpels, which is the female reproductive part. Okay, so essential parts are those which have the reproductive parts. Now non-essential parts are the parts of the flower that help in reproduction, or generally they protect the reproductive parts of a flower, and they also attract the pollinators for pollination. So they protect the reproductive parts and also attract pollinators for pollination. So these parts include the sepals and the petals. Okay, so essential parts are those that are involved in reproduction, while non-essential parts are those that are protecting the reproductive parts and they are attracting pollinators. So these include sepals and petals, while the essential parts include stamens and carpels. Okay, let's note this point. Petals and sepals undifferentiated together called perianth. See this. This is the wall of a sepal, okay, and this is the wall of a petal. Now, what happens? They are undifferentiated, means they are all mixed. You cannot differentiate whether it is petal or whether it is sepal. So you will call such structure as perianth. Okay, in which sepals and petals, they are undifferentiated. You are not able to differentiate whether it is sepals or petal. So that condition is known as perianth. Now next point, perianth is green like sepals, that is known as sepaloid. If this perianth, I am drawing again, this is the wall of sepal and this is the wall of petal. Now if this perianth is all green like sepals, then this condition is known as sepaloid. This condition is known as sepaloid. Now the next condition, if perianth is non-green, it is known as petaloid. I am drawing again. This is the sepal wall and this is the petal wall. Now if this perianth is non-green, means it is having a characteristic of petals, because petals are only of different colors. So this condition is known as petaloid. If they are green, generally sepals are green, so that conditions will be called sepaloid. And if the perianth is non-green, that conditions will be known as petaloid. Let's study about bracts. So bracts are basically when a flower arises in the axil of a leaf-like structure, then that structure is known as bract. Okay, let's understand this. Suppose this is a stem. Okay, this is the stem, and here you will see small tiny leaf like structures. Okay, and from this tiny leaf like structure you will see flower originating. So this tiny leaf like structure arising in the axil. The word axil means corner or angle. So you may see there is an angle between the stem and this leaf like structure. So this bract is a modification of leaf only. So when a flower arises in the axil of a leaf like structure, this is the axil angle from where a flower is arising. Okay, so this leaf like structure is known as bract, and this bract may be green. It may be green. Most of the cases this bract is green, and it may be colored. And for colored, the example given in your book is bougainvillea. Okay, I am attaching the image of bougainvillea. You may see the pink colored bract, okay, and the flower originating from inside it. Okay, now let's study about nectaries. So nectaries are group of nectar releasing cells. Okay, these are group of nectar releasing cells. Suppose these are the nectaries cells. Okay, and they will do what? They will release some nectar. So what is this nectar? This nectar is a sweet fragrant liquid which are released by the nectaries. Okay, so now let's see where these nectary cells are located. So let's write about their location. So nectary cells are located generally at the base of pistil or petal. Okay, this was our pistil. Pistil was the female reproductive part, and this is the petal. So generally they are located here at the base of this pistil or at the base of the petal. Okay, now let's write the definition of nectar. So some flowers release or produce sweet fragrant liquid called nectar. So this nectar is basically, it is a sweet fragrant. Okay, it smells good to the insect. So what is the role of this nectar? This nectar helps in attracting the insects for cross pollination. So nectar, we have to note this point, nectar helps in attracting insects like honeybee for cross pollination. So what is actually cross pollination? Okay, so pollination between two different flowers is known as cross pollination. Suppose this is our plant. Okay, this is one flower and this is another flower. So pollination occurring between these two different flowers is known as cross pollination. So these flowers may be present on the same plant, or they may be present on different plant. So pollination between these two flowers is also cross pollination. What is self pollination? It happens as in case of hibiscus. So in that case, within the same flower, pollination is occurring. So for pollen grains to reach this flower from here to here, we need insects. Okay, we need insects, and that insect will carry the pollen when it will reach this flower. So it detects the nectar and it reaches this flower, and from there the pollen grains which are present in that flower, it gets stick to the insect, and when that insect reaches the another flower, the pollen grains are automatically shed on that flower, and through that pollination happens. Okay, so this was all about nectaries and nectars. Let's study the new topic, sexuality in flowers. So here in sexuality we are referring to terms that whether a flower contains both stamens and carpel, means whether a flower is having both the male reproductive part as well as female reproductive part, or a flower is having only the male reproductive part and only the female reproductive part. So here we are going to study two terms, bisexual or hermaphrodite or perfect flower. Okay, bisexual means both male as well as female parts are present within the same flower. So they are also known as hermaphrodite or perfect flower because they are having both male and female parts. So let's write it, flower containing both male and female reproductive part. So here the male part is, let's write it down, stamens, and for female reproductive part, let's write down carpels. So flower containing both stamens and carpels, reproductive parts. Now in unisexual or incomplete or imperfect flower, the flower has only the male or only the female reproductive part. Means the flower is having only the stamen or only the carpel. So a flower having only the stamen or only the carpel. Okay, so one flower will have the stamens and different another flower will have the carpel. They are present separately on different flowers. Okay, now let's see the examples. Let me erase the reproductive part because we know that stamens and carpels are reproductive parts only. So bisexual flower are flowers containing both stamens and carpels. Now example of this flower is what we had drawn. Okay, so example is hibiscus. In hibiscus we saw that both stamens and carpels were present within the same flower. Now example of this unisexual. Unisexual means only one either male or the female part is present. Uni means, remember, uni means one. Okay, incomplete because only one part is present, either the male or the female, or imperfect. So these terms generally refer to one thing only. So example is papaya and palm. Okay, now let's note some important points. So the first point is staminate or male flower. So what is a staminate or male flower? So a flower which is having only the male reproductive part, means a flower having only the stamens is known as staminate flower. A unisexual flower which contains only the stamens, that is known as staminate or male flower. Suppose this is the stem, okay, and here suppose this is the flower, this is the petal. Okay, I'm drawing the petal and here you can see only the stamens, means having filament and anther. You won't see pistil present here. So that is staminate flower. Next is pistillate or female flower. So a flower having only the female reproductive part, means a flower having only the pistil or carpel is known as pistillate or female flower. So a flower which contains only the carpels. Again I am drawing, this is the stem, petal. Now you will see only the female reproductive part present. This is stigma style ovary. So this whole is the pistil. So only this pistil is present in a flower. So that flower is known as pistillate or female flower. Next point, neutral flower. What are neutral flowers? A flower which lacks both male reproductive part as well as female reproductive part. Means this flower is sterile. It doesn't have the male as well as female part. So that flower is known as neutral flower. A flower in which both male and female reproductive organs are lacking. So this, for this the example is ray floret of sunflower. So you know this is the disc of the sunflower and you see yellow structures, yellow petals like structures. So this yellow like structure is known as ray floret. Okay, so this whole is a sunflower and this yellow petal like structure is ray floret, and this ray floret doesn't have male as well as female reproductive parts. So it is an example of neutral flower. So that's all for this lecture. See you in the next lecture. Till then, take care.